Welcome, everybody. First of all, welcome to our Tech Talks, the 19th Tech Talk. Um, Today we have a nice talk about VyOS. My name is Jan Frömmerk. I'm a Technical Business Development Manager at Cloud and Heat Technologies, and I will be your host today. Then let's get an overview. Today's agenda is our talk and the discussion afterwards. And we also have some news and events for you. So let me introduce our presenter. We got our presenter today from VyOS Networks. It's Date Huang, solution architect and contributor at VyOS Networks. And he is also a bare metal provisioning toolkit SU maintainer. You can Google for it and find some stuff about at GitHub and so on. Yeah, and Date, if you're ready, then I will stop my presentation, hand over to you, and the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Please.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's check. Everyone can see my screen, right?
Great. Yeah, we can see your screen.
Just I minimize. Okay, minimize. Okay. Okay, so today's topics will be the provisioning and the management your VyOS NFV with the Kubernetes. This is Date Huang at VyOS Networks. Okay, this is today's agenda is how to work the VyOS in the Kubernetes and some future works and some demo. So about me, this is Date, VyOS Solution Architect, and some speaker experience. And what is the VyOS? We are a company who development and open source this networks operating system, and this is based on the Debians. And you can run the VyOS on every x86 64 device. And we also have some ARC64 experimental support right now. We are just start development this one. We provide a powerful set of the features and routing, firewall, VPNs, lots of the feature sets. And you can get everything from the VyOS GitHub page. You can get the source code. You can get some documentations. You can get everything usage some example there. Okay, and what is the VyOS? We support some lots of the dynamic routing protocol, especially BGP, OSPF, ISIS. And we also support some TNT networks, BGP EVPN, VXLAN, and VRF NIT support. We also have the stateful firewall, and this is based on the NF tables and the connection check-ins features in the Linux kernel. And we also support lots of the VPN protocols, especially is IPsec, OpenVPN, and WireGuard. And if you think we don't provide some feature that you need, but you really want to need, but we don't provide that, we provide the container. You can run the container in your VyOS instance and to provide other features. For example, lots of some customer will want to have the IPS infrastructure. So we can use the Suricatas container and put it on the VyOS, and VyOS will turn into L7 firewalls. Okay, so you can deploy the VyOS on the bare metal servers, x86, any x86 server, I think this should be okay. And you can also provide deploy the VyOS into the cloud, especially AWS, GCP, Azure, Oracle Cloud, and you can just one click to enable the VyOS instance inside your cloud. And we also support some VM styles VyOS image, for example, the KVM, which is pure Linux virtualizations. And we also support the VMware. You can deploy anything on VMware. And we also provide the Zen and Hyper-V's image to let you deploy everything into there. And so let's get into the topic today. So consider you are a IT manager or the IT engineer, and you want to deploy the VyOS with the maybe VPN service or other service to your customer or for your internal team. For example, maybe you need the internal load balancer, internal VPN to export to other sites, or your customer, you have many customers they have a one tenant for each. They will need their own networks device or own networks configurations, and they will want to have several NFV to provide the networking for the external servers or something. So for example, the VPN across the different location, different data centers, or you want to have some VPN to connect your locations to your cloud, for example, the AWS cloud connection to your office, something like that. You hope this configuration could be the infrastructure as code style. So that means you just need to write some configuration, write some definitions to the file, and they can follow the file to deploy and provision the VyOS instance. And you want to rely on the Kubernetes platform, which is a very good way to use the infrastructure as code. And another thing, because maybe you have the management Kubernetes to put some management apps on the Kubernetes platform. So you want to rely on the same platform. You don't want to have another hardware to provision the VyOS or other stuff to use the VyOS or something. So here, please note is we don't do a CNI for the Kubernetes or do anything for the Kubernetes networks. We just want to use the Kubernetes platform to put our VyOS on it and let VyOS connect to the external networks to help us to connect to the VPN or connect to whatever you need in your environment here. Okay, and how works the to VyOS works on the Kubernetes? And the first thing is because we don't support VyOS as a container right now, so we still need the VyOS be a VM on the Kubernetes. So you can see uh, the the slides. We need to pass through the KVM device, and we will need to run the libvirt and the QEMU. And the Kubernetes side, we need to use a bridge CNI to provide the directly networks to the VyOS VM. So it's kind of similar to the KubeVirt, which is you can start the VM in the Kubernetes, then they will help you to maintain the VM status, and you can pass through some networks into the VM, and VM have the external connection or the connection to the pods, other pods. And we can log into the pod and enable the versions console to configurations. So we still have the way to configurations. And that is not an app on the Kubernetes. That is just another VM, another pod on the Kubernetes, because we still need to config the VyOS. If we not configure it, it's just a brand new empty configurations instance without any other features and the configuration in. And so do we config VyOS with the serial console or the KVM console directly? Just means the Kubernetes just start a VM and we just need to log in and configure get a configuration everything manually or something? Or we should rely on the cloud init and the SSH. So that means they will provide us a first configuration to let me SSH is. So let me we can use the Ansible to any other API to configurations the service. Do we have anything, any way to deploy the VyOS configurations with the API or anything else? Just this is the today's topic because we want the infrastructure as code style deployment. And can we auto sync configuration from the other resource? So that means we have a file describes anything, and we just need to send the file into the system, send the file into the platform, and the platform will help us to sync everything into the VyOS. So let me introduce the Kubernetes agent. This is the true out-of-band management, which means we don't need any out-of-band management network. So that means we don't need to enable SSH. We don't need to have the internet or the network to your management network. And we can use the guest agent to read, write, SQL file inside the VM on demand. So that means you can, when you want to configuration A, configuration B, we can use this interface to configuration the VyOS. But how to do it? So describe some Kubernetes scenarios. Some stuff is we can watch the CRDs or watch the ConfigMap or some file change, and we can write the configuration. So that means you will provide a configuration to the Kubernetes, and we can watch that resource. And when that resource change, we can write the configuration into the VyOS with the Kubernetes agents, and we can execute the script to load all the configurations. So we can get that means is we don't need to log in into the pod. We can use the everything external resource to let it automatic syncs the scripts and the configuration into the VyOS, and the VyOS will follow your script, follow your configuration to provide your network service. So you can get the true apps on the Kubernetes. So you can see the GitHub links. This is the sample code and the POC. You can check it later after meetings. So this is the concept here. So we have the config map, which is one of the resource in the Kubernetes. So you can see I describe some commands and with some configurations inside. And we will mount this configuration map as a file into the pods. And we will have a simple controller, which is written by the bash script, and it will watch the configuration file. And when the file change, we will use the Kubernetes agent to sync this file into the VyOS and execute, tell the VyOS to load this configuration into the VM. Or we can have another style is CRDs, which we can definition a new resource inside the Kubernetes and describe the commands or configuration that they should do or they should load into it. And we will have the controller and watch the CRDs change and load Kubernetes agents, load configuration into the VMs via the QV agents. Okay, so let's demo the VPN server on the Kubernetes right now. Okay, so you can see we have one Kubernetes cluster here, which is with some deployment or something. So we have several deployment of the VyOS right now. And we can So we can definition a ConfigMap here, which we will describe some interface. For example, we will describe the host name, and we can describe the IP address. We can describe the Ethernet and the WireGuard interface to provide the VPN service. And we will have another deployment here to truly deploy the VyOS into the Kubernetes, and we will mount that configuration map into there. So, and we have the two networks here, and so we will export these two interface into the VyOS VM, so they will have the two networks subnets that, which is one is for the external, one is for the internal. And we can apply this YAML file to there and check back to, you can see we already to have one instance here, and we can see the logs. He's writing to provisioning. Okay, and some logs here, and the concept is we will load a VM for the VyOS. We will have the controller to waiting for the Kubernetes agent is ready, and we will have a controller to check the VyOS is totally ready. Once everything is ready, and it will start syncing the configuration into the VyOS. So you don't need to log into the VyOS directly, but I will show you how to do it, and we can check the status. Okay, where's console? What? You can see the VyOS still booting up inside the pod. And we can switch back, and the Kubernetes agent is start. So we are waiting for the VyOS is ready. And once VyOS is ready, we will start syncing the configuration into the VyOS. It will need several times because you will need to wait for boot up. So we can log it quickly into the VyOS first to check the configuration. We don't have anything for the internet right now. And we are checking for waiting for is syncing. Okay, it starts syncing right now. Okay, the first thing is finished. Let's check the script is still working on. Okay, it's also finished. So let me check the configuration. You can see our configuration is auto load into the VyOS instance with the DHCP configuration, IP address configuration, and another WireGuard configuration here. And we can do another thing is just leave this configuration map. You can see this is the configuration that we load previously, and we can edit it to remove the VPN. So for example, we don't need the WireGuard right now. Okay. And you can see, okay, you need to wait because the Kubernetes will have some delay about the file sync change. So we need to wait for a second. The log is failed. Damn. Okay, log again. Okay, just hold, and we can go back to deployment and get back to the what? Okay, show configurations. Okay, just wait for a second. Okay, so the controller detects the file is changed, so that will sync the file again and execute the configuration again. So yes, I think it's finished. We can show the configuration again, show configurations. Yes, the WireGuard interface is disappear right now. So that means you can do anything, any configurations, so you can just easily to deploy your VyOS with your configurations, and with anything is defined in the file or script or anything. You don't need to have a script to do that. Don't need to have a Ansible script. And you can see this is we don't enable the service of the SSH here. So that means that service you cannot access your direct network. So that's not something you can avoid some security risks sometimes because you don't enable the connection service right now. You only enable is let Kubernetes help you to insert the configuration you have. So that means you can deploy the VyOS on your demand. So we can let's use another thing to show. So you can see we have some other deployments here. And that means those deployment is on your code and on your file. When you define a new file or a new description, they can deploy a new VyOS instance right away. And you can define the configuration maps to let them to load the different configuration you need, and without any external networks, management networks, connections. So that means you don't need to have an IP to access it or some firewall rules to some other firewalls to deny others to access it because you cannot access it directly. You only can use the ConfigMap, or you need to log in to debug. This is the only way. So they can easily to let you to provide your service when you want. You just write the new definitions and put it into the Kubernetes, and Kubernetes will help you to provision the VM and load every configuration into it. Even you change your configurations, Kubernetes will help you to resync all the configuration into the VyOS instance, and the VyOS will change their configuration to provide different service. Okay, let's back to the slides. Okay, so the idea is somewhat I just demos is you can see we have the pod with the two networks, and we will pass through these two networks into the VyOS VM, and this VyOS VM will have the WireGuard connection. So when your first interface can connect to your public network, and that means you can have outer client to access this WireGuard VPN to access your inter-tenant networks or something. If you provide this, the extent2 is to your customers' specific tenant networks, and that means they can only access that tenant networks, not others networks. You don't need to have some firewall rules to deny anything. You can just provision your VyOS to your specific customer, and they can only access their resource only. And if your pod is dead, your VM is dead, Kubernetes will help you to auto recreate another VM and load the same configuration into it, so you don't even to have a script to monitor its health and recreate the whole VM, whole configuration on it. So maybe your connection, your traffic will light the blue line to access your internal tenant networks for your workers, your employee, your customer to some internal resource. And when you don't need this, you can just delete the pod directly and the service is gone. Okay, and some quick future works is maybe we can do some Kubernetes controller base to use the CRDS to deploy and sync VyOS configurations, or we can have the sidecar controller with the KubeVirt, and that means VyOS VM will control by the KubeVirt, and our sidecar controller will help the VM to load the configurations. Okay. And this is maybe we'll have some others. If you want to have the NFV controller to auto-gen the configuration on demand, when your customer clicks something on the website, and the NFV controller will help you generate the configurations, and it will deploy to your pods and deploy to your VyOS instance directly. Okay, we finished. Do you have any questions about this?
Yeah, first, thank you, Juan, Date Huang.
Okay. Do I need to stop sharing?
Maybe just wait a few seconds. Are there any questions by the audience? So seems not to be the case. Yeah, first of all, thank you, Date, for the interesting talk. I like the security feature by design, so there's no SSH connection.
Yeah, and that means you don't need to put your special configuration into your main router or your some router, that means is you have a router with the VPN configuration, and with mix is maybe you mix your customer, your workers, your employments, your everything, your partners, and it will not easy to remove the access from others, and you cannot, it's not easy to management your configuration there. But if you can only provide a one service in one VM to one customer, that will be easier because you just delete the service. And you can reprovisioning the service again to easily because you use the pod definition in the Kubernetes, and you use the cloud ConfigMap to deploy your configuration into the VyOS. So that means everything could be the GitHub space. So that means you just need to delete the file, delete the path definitions, and that service will just be gone in the Kubernetes. So you don't need to care about you. Do you remove the incorrect stuff, or do you forget to filter or limit that user to access all the resource? And because we don't need to enable the SSH, so in the public side, you will not have some security risks because they will not export the service there. You can just simply DDoS protection or some simply firewalls filters. You can get the secured networks for your customer and for your safety internal systems, other internal systems.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Cool.
In the meantime, are there some questions?
Yes.
Yes, please. No questions.
Oh.
Are there any questions? I guess I hear something. No. Yeah, maybe this solution is or did you run in any limits by yeah by some constraints, or is it just limited by the Kubernetes itself and the size of the pods or the number of the pods?
Okay, so okay. We do have some limitations because we need the virtualization in the Kubernetes. So that means the Kubernetes nodes should be in the bare metal site, or they have the nest virtualization into the Kubernetes VM because we need that virtualization features there. So this is first thing. And another thing is we need another internet, or where we say the network card interface, to provide the VyOS with the other network features. So we will need to install, just hold on, Martus, yeah, we need to install the multiple CNI to provide multiple interface in the pods. So we can have the additional extra interface to let that interface to have that VyOS can connect to the outside world. For example, that you can have a VLAN that is described to your management networks, and we can have the VyOS to connect to the management networks, and your service can have a VPN inside there, and you need another interface to connect into the public net to get a public IP, so we can export the public IP and the VPN service into the public. So your customer, your client, or your employee can use that VPN to get into your internal systems or some special networks there. So there still have some limitations to let the VyOS in the past works because somehow our Kubernetes network is complex and you cannot transfer every traffic into the pods. So we need some special setup for the CNIs. So if you curious about this, you can check about our GitHub page, and we will have some describe here there. And I saw there's something in the chat. Is that okay, chat? Is this possible to control with this software less center page like meets rules? Oh, sorry. Do not pass through the VyOS instance. I'm not sure what you mean. Could you provide some examples or what you really want to do to this?
Is it okay? Maybe this question is about to somehow bypass the VyOS VPN router. Was it the question
Uh, okay,
by
so
Carlos?
if I understand correctly, so uh, it will depend on your VPN's configurations. So for example, if is this possible to control traffic to certain patch? Uh, it will depends on which VPN you use because that means you need to trust route other traffic to your original internet or via your VPN. So somehow you can get some, for example, you can get some IP address range and you can filter out those IP address and only some IP address range into the VyOS traffic and others not. In the WireGuard, we have a low IP and route we can config. We don't need to config the default route. Always traffic sent into the VPN. So you need to do that. Another thing is you may need to use the proxy to filter the URL or the address you use. So that proxy could help you to send some, for example, your meetings, rooms, and teams will not pass through the VyOS VPN, but other traffic will always pass through the VPNs. So they will be depends on your VPN configurations and how you use the VPN in your client, not directly related to the VyOS or the Kubernetes side here.
Okay, does this answer your question, Carlos? Okay, thank you. Great. Maybe some other questions?
Yeah, maybe you can share something to let automation deployment your virtual machine in the VMware or your hypervisor or something is harder because you will need to provide it and put the maybe cloud init configuration and put the enable the SSH and try to use the Ansible to connect that instance and use the Ansible to maintain the configuration in the instance. But if you use in this way, you can see I just use the one command is kubert control apply, and I can just modify any file, any configuration here. So that means your network controller just need to config or change the file in the Kubernetes and everything else will be automatic without doing too many Ansible script or some you need to you don't need to have a SDK with a VMware or some Hyper-V to deploy this or something because that will be complex if you want to do from scratch or you don't have any controller directly support this. So that will be a great way to deploy or provisioning your configuration, especially configuration sync. But because it is a VM, so that will mean you have a little bit long provisioning delay before it's ready. Because this is VM, you need to waiting for is their boot ups and everything is ready. Yep.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yep.
It's by this topic. You have a slide about the future plans.
Yes.
Can you please switch to that one? Future
This
work.
one, right?
Yeah. Okay. True VyOS app. What's meant by this? Is it
Okay.
Kubernetes
So
based, like a VM, or is it more a container like?
it's still a container with a VM. So we have a container and inside we will have VM. But how it works with the Kubernetes will be another way. Will be we have a controller inside the container, and that controller will subscribe the Kubernetes resource change. So they will watch that events. So that means you don't need to mount. So let's show here. In currently our implementation is we will mount a file here and we will have a controller to watch this file. But this way is not so good because when Kubernetes want to change the config map and then change the mount point, they will have very long delay. But if we change the feature to this, that means every time the CRD is changed, Kubernetes will directly use the webhook or use the event to notify the controller directly. And controller will get the file directly and they can sync it to there. We can get a short delay and we don't need to file mount here. And that means we don't need to put our configuration always into the config map. We can have a CLDs definition with the VN definition. For example, we want 2 vCPU and the 4 GB RAMs here, and we want the 4 interface. And this 4 interface want to connect to the VLAN 1, VLAN 4, VLAN 6, VLAN 8, and the configuration is below. Everything will define in these CRDs, and the all controller will help you to deploy a true app. And you don't need to care about that VM is running or not. We will report, the controller will report the status VM is dead, VM is alive, conversion is low, everything is good, and we will have everything here. So that means you need to only provide the CRD here. Only. You don't need to set up a deployment, have a part configuration. We want the 4 CPU here and some disk storage. We don't want to do that. We don't need to do that anymore. And we will not need to watch a file which has a long delay. And we can do some special controller here to watch other resource also. If other thing change, we can immediately to notify the change because controller will notice the Kubernetes have something is changed. We can do something and we can update the CRDS. So we can also update the configuration on your demands. And so the future will consider as we have a high level controller and we will have a low level controller. And we even don't need to generate the CRDS. We just need to generate some simple configuration to the NFV controller. And that will help us to generate the configuration for the VyOS and will help us to deploy the pods. And pods will try to load the configuration and everything will work, and you only need to provide a simple ideas to you, to a simple configuration or your templates to use without those complex config here. That is what we mean the true app here. Because currently is only halfway, but this is our future work if we have time to do that.
Okay. Yeah, here's a question from the audience. So Jonas, maybe you can speak up now.
Audience just hold. Let me check if we have no chat. Jonas, you can speak.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. Um, so this is running VyOS in virtualization. I understood that this isn't the first context in which this is done. What influence does that have on throughput? Is that measurable, or can you basically neglect the overhead of KVM or similar things these days?
Can you describe the question? I'm not really get it.
Yeah, so I mean, running a network virtual function or network function in a virtual machine a virtual machine comes with an overhead. And I was wondering if you have like benchmarks at hand, how much throughput you lose on, for instance, a pair of 10 gigabit links when you do
Oh,
that.
okay. So currently we don't do the benchmark so far, but we do expect that you will have some loss because because of this, you can see we have the several bridge here. This is two bridge in the pod, and this is another bridge outside the pod in the host, and we will have the out external networks here. And so this is two big overhead here with a bridge. If we can use the SRV and PCIe pass-through to directly to the VN, I think that will have the less performance lost for this. But because we are trying to have easily to provision in here to provide a service, so we just use a bridge here and bridge here to have let us can deploy our service as much as possible, because we don't need to limit to the how VF is. So if we only have add VF here, so we only can pass through add to add interface to the pod. So that means we only have the add part for the VyOS. But if we can use a bridge, we can provide as much as we can. And we can also replace those interface with something to have another CNI implement to provide the network to the VyOS to get better performance here. But so far, we don't have any benchmark about this part for the testing right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas, for your question. Are there any other questions?
I think is the best. I think I provide a way to have a better way to synchronize the configuration. But in this topic, we just focus on the synchronization, but not on the performance right now, because in that period, our customer didn't require any performance. They just want to have that kind of the usage, and they don't need any bigger performance because their outer networks only have the 100 megabits per second network, so that will not be a problem. But yes, the performance will definitely lose some performance because of these implementations right now.
Okay, thank you, Tate.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then we can go on
Okay. So let
with
me
the ALASCA.
start sharing.
Okay, then let's get back to the slides. So we've got some news. We can announce that we have a new ALASCA member, the N plus P Information Systems GmbH company. Digitization of industry and construction in the SME sector is the main part of this company. And if you want to get further question, you can go to the website www.newpis.de. It's written on the slide, and maybe we have some yeah, some people from the company here, they can speak up and feel free to speak some words about. Okay, guess there's no one here right now. Then let's go over to the other news. Yeah, we have the ALASCA second general meeting last Friday, and I guess I saw our great community manager in Ariane. Maybe Ariane, you want to speak some words about this general meeting?
Yes, I can do that. Thank you. Yes,
Great.
it was a nice meeting. Maybe the two major points for this group right here is that we made great progress in first of all, the technical steering committee that was elected. We came up with the technical steering committee, I think, last year, and the board was like the interim solution. And this time we had the official election, and we will have the announcement soon on who is having those positions. And then another very cool point of progress is the onboarding of new open source projects. I think many of you probably know that one of ALASCA's main missions is to really develop operable open source technologies in the cloud infrastructure area. And we are always happy to have new projects join the association. And we have now really finalized a process for this. So the application, the criteria that we are using to evaluate the projects, different project stages, and many things like that. And so this will go live probably within the next weeks too. So that's a major step, and we are happy that we are now ready to put that into action. And then, yeah, otherwise just discussed what has been happening in the association and what's happening in the future. So I think it was a very nice meeting, and yeah, I think that's it so far.
Yeah, thank you, Ariane.
You're welcome.
Nice news. And yeah, and we have also some news about yeah, a nomination for our software project Krake, the open source project Krake, for the German Nachhaltigkeitspreis. There's also a website. Yeah, press your thumbs that maybe this one gets another prize, and ALASCA will be supported by this great news. And in the end, don't forget, we have this ALASCA Summit we mentioned last talk, and yeah, there are some sites prepared where you can get your tickets and see the agenda. So it's in the end of October. There's not much time left, and feel free to join us and maybe be part of this great event. So last question, if there are any other news from the community, then please feel free to speak up. If not, other news, then I can go on. We have some next talks in October and November. The last two talks on the 25th of October, there will be a talk at 1 p.m. about cloud computing at any scale by the company Incas. Feel free to join another one, and yeah, stay tuned. There are some news on the web page. You can write us or subscribe to the email mailing list, or you can watch our past tech talks on YouTube. These sessions will always be recorded, as you can saw in the beginning. And yeah, stay tuned, be curious. The next talk is on 25th of October, as I mentioned, by Stephanie Graber. And thank you that you join us here. Thank you, Date, for your interesting talk. So let's see you then.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.